Good morning, everyone. Before we jump into commands and technical terms, I want you to think about something very special. Like every time you open your laptop, every time you play music, every time you browse the internet, have you ever wondered what is actually managing all of this? There is something working silently in the background. You don't see it, you don't notice it. But without it, absolutely nothing works. That something is the operating system. And today we are going to understand how Linux works behind the scenes in a very simple and interesting way. Let's uh, let's watch a short video to build our basic understanding. As you watch this video now, keep one question in your mind. How does my computer manage so many things at the same time without getting confused? Observe carefully how Linux organizes everything silently. Okay, so let me share my screen. Is it visible? All right, students. Now let's understand what Linux actually does for us. Right? Imagine a Linux as a very intelligent manager in an office. and your computer is the office, applications are employees. Linux is the manager who controls everything calmly and efficiently. So now let's see its main responsibility of Linux. I told you earlier also on the previous slide, but here I am giving you an very interesting and very useful examples. So try to understand better. First one is process management. So whenever you open an app like a browser or music player, Linux creates something called a process. If you open five apps, Linux manages all five smoothly. It decides which one should run first, which one should wait, how much time each one should get. It makes sure programs don't fight for the CPU. That's why your system keeps running without crashing. It also responsible for memory management, like think of RAM as your study table. If your table is messy and overloaded, you can't work properly. Linux keeps memory clean and organized. It gives memory to active programs, removes unused data, uses swap space when RAM is full. This keeps your computer fast and stable. Another responsibility of Linux is file system management, like all your files, photos, videos, assignments, code are stored inside folders. Linux organizes everything in a tree like structure. Everything begins here from slash. This is like the trunk of a tree. From there, branches grows into folders. This structure helps us find and store files easily. Another responsibility of Linux is device management. So, keyboard, mouse, printer, hard disk, all are devices. Linux controls and manages them. It acts like a translator between hardware and software. You plug in a device, Linux understand it and makes it work. Okay, next, security and permissions. Linux is very secure. It decides who can read a file, who can edit it, who can execute it. This is why Linux is trusted in servers, banks, and companies worldwide. So, students, Linux is not just a software, it is a silent organizer, a strict security guard, a smart manager, and a powerful coordinator. Even though we don't see it working, it is always there, managing everything calmly and intelligently. Now that we understand what Linux does conceptually, let's move deeper and see how it actually performs this task internally. Okay, if Linux suddenly stop working right now, what do you think will happen to your system? Kindly think, if Linux suddenly stops working right now, what do you think will happen to your system? Think and answer. Okay, I will answer. When Linux suddenly stops working right now, and that what happened to our system? So system is crashed, no apps open, no file access. Okay, exactly that shows how important Linux is. So students, now let me tell you something very interesting. Like Linux is like a superhero, okay, but not the load, not a flashy type. It doesn't wear a cap. It doesn't show off. It just quickly saves the system every second, right? So imagine the situation. You are working on your final year project. You have 10 browser tabs open, code running, music playing, notes open, files downloading, and suddenly everything freezes. How scary would that be, right? That is exactly what Linux works hard to prevent. Okay? Your CPU can only do one thing at a time, but Linux switches between tasks so fast that it looks like everything is happening together. It's like a teacher in class. One student asks a question, another raises a hand, another submits assignment. The teacher handles everyone calmly. Linux is that calm teacher. See here, RAM is limited. It's not unlimited magic space. Linux constantly balance memory like a smart budget planner. If something is not needed right now, it moves it aside. If something important starts, it gives it space. It prevents chaos. That's why Linux systems are known for stability. Imagine a warehouse with no labels, boxes everywhere, no categories. That would be a disaster. Linux organizes everything in a tree structure. Everything begins from one root, from there, folders branch out. This organizer nature of Linux is handle server can store millions of files without confusion, right? Linux is very strict. It checks permission for everything. Before allowing access, it asks, are you allowed? That's why banks use Linux, cloud servers use Linux, government systems use Linux, because it doesn't trust blindly. It also acts like a silent communicator, like plug in a USB, connect a mouse, attach a printer. Linux instantly recognizes and manages them. It acts like a communication bridge. Without it, hardware cannot talk to software. Now imagine, remove Linux. What happens? Think. Think for 2 minutes. Remove Linux. What happens? Yeah, there is no multitasking, no file organization, no security, no hardware control, just chaos. That's how important Linux is. So, Linux is not just an operating system, it is a manager, a coordinator, a protector, a decision maker, right? And let me ask you something different. What if tomorrow Linux decide to take a holiday? What would happen? Most websites would stop working, cloud services would crash, many banking systems would freeze, supercomputers won't go silent, even Android phones would be affected because Linux is not just inside laptops. It runs data centers, satellites, scientific research system, stock exchange. It quickly powers the modern world, and yet most people never even notice it. Let's bring it back to your laptop. So when you open multiple apps, Linux is constantly making decisions, not randomly. It thinks which process is important right now, which program can wait, who needs CPU first. It makes thousands of decisions every second. Imagine making thousands of correct decisions every second. That's intelligence now. So we can say that Linux is very intelligent. And here's something very surprising that your CPU does not truly run everything at once. It switches tasks very fast. Linux controls this switching. It creates the illusion of multitasking. Like a magician, you think everything's run together, but actually, Linux is switching tasks in milliseconds. As I told you earlier many times, that memory is limited. Okay, Linux protects it carefully. If one program tries to use too much memory, Linux control it. It prevents one program for damaging another. It isolates process. That's why Linux systems are stable. Okay, let me ask, why do servers run for months without restarting? Think for 2 minutes. Why do servers run for months without restarting? Yeah, let me answer. Servers run for months without restarting because Linux manages resources efficiently. Okay. Now think about your brain. If all your memories were mixed randomly, you wouldn't function properly. Na? Linux organizes files logically. Okay. Here, security is not optional. Linux checks permission constantly. Okay. It before allowing access, it verifies who are you, what are you allowed to do, right? Hardware alone is useless, software alone is useless. Linux connects both. It is the bridge, right? It speaks to hardware devices, it coordinates input and output, it ensures everything works together. So, students, when you learn Linux, you are not just learning commands, you are learning how systems are managed, how decisions are made, how stability is maintained. You are learning how modern infrastructure works. That is powerful knowledge. I think now you understand how important Linux is conceptually, right? And we talk about Linux as a manager, a protector, a coordinator in throughout my lecture. So just think that Linux was not created by a big company at a first. It was started by a student, as I told. So a student like you, right? Someone who was curious, someone who wanted to build something better, someone who believed he could improve the system. So today, you can see Linux runs the word server, cloud platforms, supercomputers. So never underestimate your learning. You are not just studying an operating system, you are learning how systems are built, how technology is controlled, how the digital world functions. One day, you may not just use Linux, you may build the next big system the world depends on. Okay, let me leave you with a one question. If Linux can manage millions of process, balance memory, protect security, and control hardware, what can you manage? If a system can handle pressure calmly, why can't we? Linux doesn't panic, it schedules, it organizes, it protects. Be like Linux. Stay calm, manage your tasks, protect your goals, execute your plans, and one day you won't just understand systems, you will design them, right? You are not here to just pass exam, students. You are here to understand how the world runs and maybe one day run it better, right? That with that powerful line, I'm leaving you here. Okay, thank you.